Hi folks, how have you guys been? It's Olani Ibrahim. We're happy to be here again this week. And this week we are going to be talking about a specific trend in the payment industry by the name called payment orchestration. What is payment orchestration? In a single manner or in a single term, it's basically a single layer of a payment method that allows to embed as many payment rails and gateway under it. So a single interface that allows as many payment methods, including mobile money, bank transfer, wallet apps, different payment card, Visa and MasterCard on a single rail that can give you a single interface where different payment methods, particularly in different countries, right? Let's say in Nigeria, they have mobile money, they have First Bank, they have local cards, as well as international cards on a single rail for the in-country payment. That single rail can be embedded in a single interface for as many countries as possible. As I've explained for Nigeria, the same thing in Kenya. They have Momo, M-Pesa in Kenya. They have different payment methods across different African countries, even outside of African countries, right? Like in LATAM, they have Pix in Brazil. In India, we have UPI, and we have as many different payment methods in Europe, US, as well as in Asia. Having a single interface that can actually embed all those payment methods across different countries and different continents on a single interface that a global or regional business can integrate to have access to as many countries as possible. So example of that is a business out of Europe that has customers across multiple African countries, including Asia and LATAM. And they want to connect to a single payment method that will give them access to their customers in different jurisdictions and different distributions to be able to accept payments without them connecting or going to each of these countries to make it happen. So payment orchestration gives that consolidation of different payment methods on a single rail. What are the components, functions, and functionalities of payment orchestration? As we have explained, that it helps, especially in the cross-border payment industry. We mentioned that it helps, global businesses to accept payments across different countries, currencies, and different jurisdictions, right? The functionalities include, and the functions are logic routing. We are looking at routing that can accept as different payment method on a single rail and route them based on the metrics that has been programmed into the logic engine. 2, it also allows a single dashboard for many currencies, many countries. On a single dashboard, you know how many countries as a global business you can accept payment instantly. You know how much you are accepting in those countries and in their currency. And what is even more better is the fact that those currencies can also be settled in the most preferred currency of the customer, who is the merchant here, or even in stablecoin, which of course is also one of the major trends in the payment orchestration in the year 2026. And I will see that as also the beginning of a new era when it comes to payments as a whole. Essentially, payment orchestration allows merchants, global regional merchants, to accept payments across different currencies, different countries, and different jurisdictions. So a merchant based out of the US or the UK or even Europe can accept payments seamlessly across multiple African countries. An example of that is probably an airline, let me say maybe the Emirates airline. They are able to come into the country, Nigeria, some of the other African countries, to able to serve their customers while their customers are able to make payments using the predominant payment methods in their regions or their countries. So a payment orchestration allows Emirates, as an example, to accept payments in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa under a single API integration rail without any disruption. And the second leg of it, reconciliation, all these fragmentations on a single payment orchestration. So that is the core of payment orchestration. The global rise of payment orchestration towards the end of the year 2024 and the beginning of year 2025, there has been a huge rise in payment orchestration, and this is due to the area of business expansion across different jurisdictions. What I mean by that is there is a huge spike in global businesses. So there is a bit of sync in technology that allows global businesses to reach out to different countries. What I mean by that is different countries from Europe are now able to do business in Africa, in Asia, in LATAM, and even in the US and Canada. It's now more seamless than it used to be because of the advanced technology that we have now. So because of that, there is the rise in the payment orchestration because businesses want to collect payments across their customers in different countries and different currencies. So what payment orchestration does is that because of that, there's this rise in payment orchestration out of Asia, Europe, LATAM, Africa, of course, that has been here for a while, and even in the US. So that is basically the underlying why the payment orchestration has been in the payment trend, especially in the global payment trend since early of this year, 2025. How is African payment landscape? In a very short answer, it is fragmented and the lack of interoperability. The infrastructures do not speak to each other and the legacy are not the same. Usually when we speak our partners outside of Africa, they consider Africa to be a body, like a country. And usually they mix that up because of the population that is similar to what we have in Brazil, in India, and probably in China. I think Africa is around 1.5 billion people, and we have similar population in those countries. I mean India, Brazil, China. So when an African is interacting with people or with business partner outside of Africa, you usually get, you are African, how can I accept payment in Africa? But until we take it to the point where we made them understand that it's quite fragmented and Africa is not a market, it's actually a 54 market. And each of these markets, each of these countries behave as a single entity, which means what is obtainable, especially in payment industry in Africa, in Nigeria, is probably not the same thing that is happening in its neighbor, Ghana. So whatever the payment method, whatever the structure, the market in Nigeria is entirely different from what you see in Kenya. So we have the South, we have the West Africa, the East Africa, the Central Africa, and the rest. Even with those regional, on the continent, the countries still do not have the same body in terms of operation when it comes to regulatory and even policies. So as such, the payments on the continent is quite fragmented and the lack of interoperability, which means a business in Nigeria cannot easily use the same payment method in Nigeria to accept payments from its customers in Ghana or in Kenya or even in the Francophone regions. So that has been a major problem on the continent. One of the innovations, especially in the payment, is building a rail that you can connect with as many payment or fintech companies across different countries in Africa. So because of that, the innovation for Africa in terms of payment orchestration has actually been existent for about 5 years, because this is what we have been doing since 2019, 2020. Even when we did not even know its name, or when it was yet tagged payment orchestration. At its core, the fragmentation, the complexity in terms of the lack of interoperability and the infrastructure has actually made the payment innovation on African continent to be more innovative earlier than what is now trending in the global payment industry. So yes, Africa has its problem, right? I remember back in probably 2018, in Nigeria, what we wanted to solve was to solve for the unbanked region on the continent. That was when we introduced agency banking. You send people to different local government, different states, to go and station there as an agent with cash, where people can send money probably from Lagos to your people in the village. That was what we called agency banking back then, 2017 towards 18 then, Even now, we're still in the market. We call them POS agents. Then we solve for that. We then again realize that there are actually money in the bush, just like an adage from here in Africa. There are farmers in their local government, in the villages, where they are actually building for what we need globally. Then we identify what we call agri-tech, agricole. That means using technology to solve for the farmers' problems, connecting farmers to the food processors in the city. So what that solved for is that, we're able to use payments, again, payment orchestration, payment wallet for a farmer to apply for a loan to fund his farm. That was another thing. Then towards the early 2020, towards 2021, we realized that actually is much more problem. What is now the problem? The problem of businesses to be able to come on the continent and do business seamlessly. That was when we introduced building a single rail that connects as many payment methods, as many different currencies, as many countries as possible. What that means is that a payment orchestration, a payment engine that are built can be embedded with mobile money, bank transfer, bank cards, local cards, and international cards in Nigeria. And the same thing can be done in Ghana. The different Momo, MTN, Etisalat, Vodafone can be embedded on a single payment rail. The same thing can actually also work in Kenya when we embed M-Pesa. We have Orange in Ivory Coast, MTN as well. So all these different fragmented payment methods are now able to be embedded on a single rail. And that was what we were using. That was the solution we came to when we were solving for global businesses that were coming on the continent and wanted to accept payments across multiple African countries. Back then in towards the end of 2019 and after COVID in 2020. So in landscape, on a very nutshell, the complexity, the problems, the different issues on African continent has actually drive the early adoption of different payment innovation that are now trending on a global ecosystem. Another major component when it comes to payment orchestration is a single API. Instead of coming to Nigeria to integrate a payment API, go to Kenya, go to India, go to China. The payment orchestration allows a single API integration for global business to accept payments across multiple countries and multiple regions. So what that means is that single integration, you can accept payments in different currencies, different countries, and in different countries. One of the major components of payment orchestration is also the failover and the retry rules. So for the failover, it also keeps the uptime, because let's say there are different payment methods in Nigeria, and one is probably down at any given time, the engine is able to retry or send it over to a similar payment method that's probably uptime at that given time. So it also increased the uptime of merchants accepting payments across different countries. In a recap, the major components and functions of payment orchestration includes a single API integration, a single dashboard, try logic rules, reconciliation and settlement, and as many more as possible. The key takeaway of this particular topic, payment orchestration, includes fragmentation actually drives innovation globally and as well as Africa. Second, the complexity in the payment industry, the fragmentation, the lack of interoperability on the African continent has actually drives the early innovation of some of the new trends that we are now seeing on a global payment ecosystem, such as payment orchestration. Then another key takeaway is that payment orchestration actually enables global businesses to accept payment fast and drives expansion quickly and seamless. Last but not the least, payment orchestration or the innovation is built to reduce customers' friction and enable customers or business expansion. For this particular episode of 33 Exchange Podcasts, it is our motive and intention to explain and give our audience the view and understanding of payment orchestration in the African ecosystem and payment landscape, as well as its trend in the global space. And we also hope that you have been able to understand one or two things about payment orchestration. If there is any particular part of the podcast you want us to throw more light, or there is any section you'd like to have a one-on-one section with us, please drop a comment. Also repost this, send it to your friends. Just send it to anyone at all for us to expand this knowledge. And we also hope that it has been of a great, impact as you have watched. Thank you, and watch out for the next episode.